Welcome back another Sunday here at your Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. I'm Evan Camico alongside, as always, Otis Kirk. I say it every week, but it is always a pleasure to be talking football, and it is finally game week.
Yeah. After all this time we've sat here and thought and went to practice and covered press, now we can actually getting closer to talking games anyway. It's here, and thank God, because I've about practiced out, man. I mean, I've practiced storied out. I'm ready to start writing about some games. Just nothing against practice and the press conferences we've had. Appreciate all the access we've had, but I do like writing about the games because then we can kind of write on what we see, instead of what we're told.
Exactly. Enough of the talking. The playing is now here. We'll talk about the team a little bit later, but let's look at some recruits. A big land for Sam Pittman over the last couple of days in Tay Lockett. He also had an interception for St. John Bosco, California on Saturday. What do you see out of him? What can he bring to the Razorbacks?
Well, what he can bring is, he can be one of the best safeties if they've ever recruited. This is a kid with 40 offers. Evan, it's just as much as talented as he is, and I've said he's got a chance to be great. His level is great right now, but I'm talking about at the college level and beyond. He's got a chance to be really great and special player. But the biggest, another big impact, I'm not saying the biggest, but another big impact he could have is just on recruiting. When he committed, kids from all over the country started retweeting it and commenting on it. I'm talking about top priority recruits in 2026 and other classes, but, kind of focusing on 2026. Kids like Bear McWhorter, offensive lineman, 6'4", 300, who's been to Arkansas for years. He, before you came on, I was telling Will about the time he took out a billboard saying, I want to be an Arkansas Razorback, He's from Carter, Cassville, Georgia, 6'4", 300, got a ton of offers, like 20 offers he's 2026, 6'4", 300, comes to camp every year, was here this past year as well. He commented on it, and I do think Arkansas will eventually get Bear. But also Jackson Cantwell from Nixon, Missouri, 6'8", 300, another 2026 offensive lineman. And, Sam loves offensive linemen, but Cody can't recruiting both those kids. And Cantwell has about 19 or 20 offers as well, 6'8", 300. 5-star recruit. And I think if Tay's not a 5-star, it's simply because of who he committed to, because, the kid's big time. When you got we're talking about kids with 20 offers, he's got 41. Tay does. So, just big time player. These are all big priority recruits for Arkansas that we're talking about. And I think getting Tay can impact it. And the good part is doing it so early. When if you're sitting out here and you're pretty open-minded on your college, Evan, and you see a kid like Tay Lockett commit this early, you think, Arkansas's got something going for it, And I think that's a huge plus for them.
Absolutely. I think with recruiting especially, first of all, that's the secondary that desperately needs talent to come in. We know the struggles they've had over the last couple of years. You bring in Marcus Woodson to run the secondary from Florida State. Travis Williams, this is going to be his first year, so it's going to be really fun to watch the defense and how they perform, especially the secondary, because of the struggles. And now you're seeing the flip side of, okay, maybe there's some belief in that room, not only that, with Jaheim Singletary and some of the other guys that they have right now, but also down the line where you get a guy like Tay Lockett, and that's somebody, a 4 or 5-star that can transform your entire culture and your entire team. So absolute kudos to Sam Pittman and the guys recruiting and bringing him in. And second of all, again, it's huge for Sam Pittman. Like, you want these top guys coming to Arkansas because that attracts the rest of them. There's going to be a domino effect that are slowly going to happen over the next couple of years, especially because maybe that 2026 class, you get a young guy maybe like Kane Archer. You get some of these young talent in-state to stay in-state. We've talked about that over the last couple of weeks. You want to keep your top in-state talent in-state. And now you go out and you get a kid like Tay Lockett, who's been an Arkansas fan, and he posted pictures on social media when he was little in a Razorback jersey. And just seeing that and seeing how much that he's excited to come here will get other recruits excited, and eventually that's what you want to build if you're Sam Pittman, to get out of, I wouldn't say the SEC cellar, but to go from that 7-6, 7-5 to that next 9-3, 10-2, and when you're year after year competing with an Alabama, Georgia, LSU.
At least with the national respect, if you could get to where you're in that tier below Alabama, Georgia, and LSU, I think those are probably the premier program. But if you get there with like a Tennessee, and I mean Auburn, where you're in that maybe the next tier, doesn't mean you won't be in that tier one at times. But I'm just saying the national perception is usually going to be Alabama, Georgia, and LSU. But if you can get in that next tier instead of maybe the third tier or fourth tier, and this kind of started with Selman Bridges, a 4-star 2024 6'4" cornerback who committed to Arkansas over Texas and others, but Texas would have been a lock to that kid. Then we had on Marcus Wimberly the other day on here, 2025 safety. So the secondary issues that everybody talks about, the cure for that, and there was issues. There's no one disputing that, but the cure for that, and there's only one, is to go out here and get better players. And that's what Marcus Woodson, Darren Wilson, Travis Williams, and Sam Pittman are doing. And that's all you can do. You've got to recruit better players. I mean, it's not, you don't win the Arkansas Derby or Kentucky Derby with a goat. You go get a better racehorse.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I'm not calling anybody a goat, but I'm just saying it comes down to thoroughbreds, man, and that's what they're getting in that secondary. It's not just those three that I named, Tay, Selman, and Marcus, but I mean that is a great start in each class, 24, 25, 26. But yeah, and then you brought it up on Kane Archer. I mean, he and Tay are good friends. Kane played Friday night. They played Stillwater, Oklahoma, who beat them last year and beat them pretty handily. But they returned the favor.
Absolutely, that was Kane Archer had a day. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that
he is a great. I saw him first time I saw him play. He was in the 8th grade playing 9th grade football, and they beat Shiloh at Shiloh. Shiloh had not lost a 9th grade game at home, or maybe not even lost a game. Anyway, they had a big winning streak, especially at home, and Kane and them beat them. He was an 8th grader playing 9th grade football, and Greenwood beat them. They beat Stillwater 49-21. He was 23 of 36 for 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, rushed for 47 yards and another touchdown. And Kane is to me, is the primary quarterback target in 2026. And why is that significant? Because they have commitments in 2024 from KJ Jackson. They have a 2025 commitment from Grayson Wilson. So Dan Enos is kind of stacking the room at quarterback, where if you can get Kane on board, and getting Tay certainly doesn't hurt in that sense. And then Southern Cal there's a lot of schools after Kane, but one of the key schools was Southern Cal, and they took a commitment from a 2026 kid at quarterback. So we'll see how that affects Kane. But Friday night, KJ Jackson. How many times I'll probably call him KJ Jefferson or call KJ Jefferson KJ Jackson.
Yeah.
But they're confusing us so crazy, man, with these KJs. But anyway, he was 4 out of 6 for 126 yards, and a touchdown, and rushed 6 times for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. They beat Montgomery Academy. He plays at St. James Academy there in Montgomery. They won that game. KJ did. I don't think I have a score on that. And then Grayson, he had 3 touchdown passes, had a 40-plus yard run call back. They beat Lone Oak 52-16. So, the quarterbacks, all 3 of those kids at Arkansas is tied to 2 commitments, 1 priority target. I guess it's fair to call Kane a priority target. But all 3 of those kids won. All 3 of them played well, as you would want a quarterback recruit to do. You want all recruits to play well, but we all know, Evan, a lot revolves around a quarterback play, man. I mean, that's one reason I know we're going to talk about the season predictions and this and that in a minute, but that's one reason I'm high on Arkansas, because they've got a proven quarterback in that KJ Jefferson, whereas some of these schools, they may have a great prospect there and high hopes for that guy, but Arkansas has a proven commodity there, and to a degree they've got a proven commodity behind him and Jacoby Criswell. So I like Arkansas because of the quarterback situation. I'm just telling you, man, in this day and age, if you don't have good quarterback play, you're struggling. And Arkansas should have that this year.
Absolutely. And you look at some of the top teams in college football right now. USC, Caleb Williams, Heisman winner last year. Michigan, J.J. McCarthy. You look, Alabama last year. Georgia the last couple of years, Stetson Bennett and Bryce Young. Yeah. These guys have proven quarterbacks. Notre Dame, Sam Hartman looked real good yesterday. And even on top of that, our Jacob's pretty happy right now that I just brought that up. But when you look in the depth of college football, Washington with Michael Penix, these teams are top teams. Why? Because they have that proven quarterback that is there. Now, except for the fact that Alabama and Georgia are still up there, and Ohio State, because they're in this weird year where you have the talent around. It's the question of what quarterback. But these are teams with 3, at least 4-star quarterbacks who are going for that number 1 position. And then Texas, Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning on the bench. So, slowly talent is waiting in the wing, but you're absolutely right to your point of why are these teams top in the country? Because they have that depth at quarterback. Because at the end of the day, your quarterback runs your team. If your quarterback isn't going to get you to the next step, good luck making a bowl game.
You better have a stud defense. I mean, a big-time defense or a stud running game or something. But even now, with the sophistication of defenses, if you've just got you can have a great running game, but if you don't have that threat at quarterback, teams stack the line, and it's just, man, you've got to have and I know you mentioned Alabama will be breaking in a new quarterback, and Georgia will too, but those are the type schools that we talked about earlier, kind of in that tier 1 where even though they're breaking in someone new, you expect him to be a pretty good quarterback. So I don't think they'll have the drop off, but some of the schools maybe, in the second tier, like a Tennessee, like Arkansas, if you don't have a proven commodity at quarterback, because you don't have the talent like a Georgia or Alabama, maybe to overcome. And those teams have got to have very good quarterback play, but they've got enough talent they might could overcome not having great quarterback play. You see what I'm saying, Evan? And so
hey, I went to Indiana. I watched poor quarterback play for the last 2 seasons. And if anybody who watches this who's an Arkansas fan can DM me and name me an Indiana quarterback from the last 2 years, I will be impressed because I don't know them. And what happened, Indiana was a bottom tier Big Ten team. They didn't go anywhere. We haven't won an FBS game in 2 years. So my point is, yes, great quarterbacks, but enough of me ranting about Indiana. It's football season. I am so excited. Let's get into your predictions, Otis. What do you think is going to happen this season? What's your record for Arkansas?
My record is 8-4, but let me explain it.
I like that record.
I've got them winning 7 home games. I think that's a must. You've got 7 home games. Okay, you win those 7. I think they're going to lose to Alabama and LSU. I know fans are mad about me saying that. That's fine. They beat Alabama. I mean,
you have to be realistic at a point.
That's 7-2.
Yep.
Okay. Here's where you determine your good season, outstanding season, great season. You've got you go to you play Texas A&M in Arlington. I'm sorry, my mind's not working. You play Texas A&M in Arlington. Then you go to Oxford. Then you go to Gainesville to play Florida. Those to me are the 3 somewhat swing games. If you win your 7 home games, how many of those 3 swing games you win, then that determines. In other words, if you win 1, like I've got them winning, that's 8-4. You win 2, you're 9-3. Heck, if you sweep those, you're 10-2. And I'm not saying they can't beat LSU. I just don't expect to win in Baton Rouge. But I'm just saying those three games are all winnable. They found Alabama has kicked their rear and beat them most years. And there's been some years where Arkansas could have won it, but things didn't fall right. But A&M, they found ways to lose to Texas A&M, Evan, including last year. I mean, Arkansas, and this was way before even Sam
Pittman, at the goal line.
They have found ways to lose to Texas A&M. That game is very winnable. Oxford, I was down there 2 years ago when Arkansas went for the 2-point conversion, which 2,000 million times back Sam Pittman on a decision to go for 2. The defense was spent. They were not going to stop Ole Miss. That was the proper call. It didn't work. They lost. And then Florida, who knows? I mean, Billy Napier to me maybe even be on the hot seat. He may not be. But I'm just saying they're not. This is not their typical Florida Gators juggernaut. They're a team I'd put in that second tier with Tennessee and Arkansas and some of those. Okay, but those are winnable games. So if you could if you win your 7 home games and then you win 1, 2, or 3 of those games, that determines 10-2 would be a great season, Evan.
Absolutely. I'm
not counting the bowl game. I'm saying 10-2 would be a great season.
Yeah, I think
4. I think that's a decent season. I really do. I mean, but I look at last year. They went 6-6 in the regular season. They lost 4 games. I want to say by a combined 9 points, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, so if 2 of those you win 2 of those, then you're 8-4. So I'm just saying I don't think 8-4 is an unrealistic record. And I actually think they could do better than 8-4. I'm gonna tell you though, talking about the record and prediction. Here's the game that scares me. Here's your trap game: is Mississippi State. And I'm gonna tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
It comes right after. It's their 8th game without a break. The last game before the break. I remember Auburn. 2 years ago, Auburn came up here. Similar situation. Arkansas was beat up. They played Auburn and lost. Then they played UAPB, and then they got a bye week. And then they closed out the season pretty well and went 9-4 that season. But Mississippi State is a scary game because, one, they've got a good quarterback in Will Rogers, but 2, it just comes to where it falls on the schedule. I think it could be a trap game. So that may be a tough one to win, but if you can win that and take care of yourself at home, you should be in pretty good shape. Because I think once you get through that and get that bye week, then the schedule lightens up. You do go to Florida, and you got Auburn coming here. You got Missouri coming here. But, for all the talk about Missouri's dominated Arkansas, they've only played 3 times in Fayetteville. Missouri won 1 of them. And Arkansas won the other 2. They beat Arkansas in Columbia, and they beat them in Little Rock, but not in Fayetteville, only 1 time. So, anyway, 8-4 is my pick.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I think it's gonna come down to is you're gonna expect to go and you're gonna come out and you're gonna go 3-0. You're gonna beat Western Carolina, Kent State, and then BYU. It's that tough stretch in the middle where you go at LSU, in Arlington, Ole Miss, then to Alabama. If you can swing 2-2, like you were saying, there's no reason that you can't go 8-4. And 8-4, I think, should be the goal for this team this season. You have the quarterback play now. It's going to rely a lot on the health of KJ Jefferson. And if he goes down, you're pretty confident with your backup in Jacoby Criswell. At least that's what Sam Pittman and the rest of the team is saying.
A lot more than last year.
Absolutely. And you went
better about Jacoby.
And you went last year 6-6. And Malik Hornsby was playing some of these games. And you see, at least what we see in the preseason practices is the difference that Jacoby Criswell gives you as a backup than Malik Hornsby. So I think realistically, 8-4 is a really good standing for a record. I would say ceiling would be 9-3. I don't think you get more than 9 wins unless you pull off an Alabama upset. But you're more likely to win at LSU than Alabama because of the game last year. And LSU isn't that much of a different team than last year. They still have Jaden Daniels coming back. And you've already played him, and you almost beat him here. But at the end of the day, I think your floor is probably 6-6. And if you're 6-6, Sam Pittman will be on the hot seat.
Yeah, I don't think they should go 6-6. But like I said, what could happen is if they did lose, let's just say they lost Mississippi State, then lost all your road games, and I'm counting A&M as I know that's a designated home game, but it's neutral site game, okay. But if you 6-6 would probably be winning your 6 home games, lose to Mississippi State or to Auburn, one of those, or Missouri, whatever. But you lose one of those games, and then you lose all the games away from Razorback Stadium, with the exception of Western Carolina and the Rock. So yeah, that probably is. But honestly, if they'd had Jacoby Criswell and LSU had played like they played last year, Arkansas would have beaten them. They just had no quarterback play, sorry, I mean, that's just, I'm just telling you what I saw out there. I'm really high on Jacoby Criswell. I mean, obviously, I'm not putting him in KJ's class, but I'm just saying, I think they have a competent backup. Hopefully, pray that KJ stays healthy like he did at, what was that, 2021? Yeah, 2021, he stayed healthy. They went 9-4. And I think that's a possibility again if he does that, because KJ is a difference maker at quarterback. Rocket's a difference maker at running back. And that running back room is deep. But I like this team. That defensive line. Well, I mean, people say, well, you guys say that every year about the defense. They've never had a defensive line this deep. I mean, they added 4 transfers who were proven players. Mm-hmm. And you got Landon Jackson and Trey Jeffcoat coming at you off that edge. And, okay, let's put them on the bench. Okay, Zach Williams and Jashad Stewart, John Morgan III, inside Cam Ball, Torian Carter, TV Rose.
There's a lot of them on the D-line.
Booker, and then we're Eric Gregory, and somewhere Nico's in there. So, I mean, that's a deep defensive line. I love Poopaw at linebacker. I love Jordan Crook. I like the 2 transfers. I like the freshmen. And then I think the secondary is going to be better. I really do. It hurts to lose McAdoo, but the emergence of Jaheim Singletary, as you mentioned earlier, from Georgia, that was a 5-star recruit. Just didn't get to play at Georgia. Doesn't mean he can't play. You know, he was only there 1 year, but he was their impact recruit, one of their key impact recruits just 2 years ago. So, and then I think getting the 2 Baylor kids, Al Walcott and Snacks Johnson, I think that was a huge pickup. I love Hudson Clark at safety. I don't like him at corner. You know, I just don't. And you know, and then you've got some other guys like Malik Chavez, Jaden Johnson, Ladarius Bishop, guys who have been here. I love Jalen Braxton and TJ Metcalf from that freshman class. So, you know, and then you've got the kid transferred in from Stewart, transferred in from TCU. So I like the depth there. I like the depth on defense. Maybe the key to this team reminds me a lot of that 2015 team, not just because of Dan Enos, but the key is going to be, can they get the offensive line play they got in 2015? Because that was the difference. I mean, Brandon Allen could stand back there against Mississippi State. He had 7 touchdown passes, was not sacked, no interceptions. If these 2 tackles turn out, and I think they will, I think that if this offensive line in right guard can turn out to be as good as that 2015 line was, that was a very good offensive line. This team is very dangerous. There's a difference between not having talent at offensive tackle or any position and not having experience. And this team doesn't have experience. Andrew Chambly, Devon Manuel, you know, and Marion Harris, those guys don't have a lot of experience, but they're very talented, Devon, and they need experience. It's not that they're not talented; they need experience. It's just like Stromberg and those guys, Limmer and Latham 3 years ago. 4 years ago. They need experience too. And if they get, and the only way to get that is play them. And I like the way they start off with the 3 non-conference games and get some experience. And I think they're going to be okay there. So yeah, I mean, I like this team.
And the good news is that experience is coming 5 days away from kickoff. Otis, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for joining for your Arkansas football recruiting report. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Evan Camago. We'll see you next week.